Joining us now is Congressman Adam Schiff. He's the top Democrat on the Intelligence Committee. Congressman Schiff, it's really nice to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
You bet.
Knowing that the Clinton campaign and the Democratic Party funded the research behind the Christopher Steele dossier for those 6 months last year, does that shed any meaningful light in your committee's investigation into the Russian attack or whether they had help?
Not particularly, no. We've known for some time, at least it's been publicly reported, that the dossier or the hiring of Christopher Steele was initially on behalf of one of the Republican candidates and later on behalf of the Democratic candidate. This was the first confirmation of half of that, but it doesn't really shed any light where we really need light shed, and that is how much of what Mr. Steele found can be corroborated, how much of it is accurate. We've been working hard to answer those questions, which are really what the American people need to know. And indeed, some of the dossier has been corroborated. What I find most significant about it is the fact that Christopher Steele, no matter who is paying for his services, may have discovered before our own intelligence agencies that the Russians were going to interfere in our election on behalf of Donald Trump. So we have a lot of work to do in terms of a lot of the claims in the dossier. But I don't think it really adds much value to know who paid for it necessarily. And I view this as part of the effort to discredit him, which really doesn't advance the investigation.
Well, on the point of discrediting the dossier, if the dossier went to the FBI, right, and to me, I've always seen that as a sign not only that the FBI saw Christopher Steele as credible, but that Christopher Steele thought his own work would check out if somebody like the FBI followed up on it and reviewed his sources and reviewed his findings. But if the Steele dossier did go to the FBI and it was taken seriously by the FBI and it became part of the FBI's interest and part of the roadmap of their investigation into what happened here, I can understand why the Republicans would want to dossier itself is a scandal, is salacious, is fake, and that somehow anything that follows from the FBI investigation, including the special counsel investigation, would be sort of fruit of the poison tree. What do you make of their overall effort to discredit it, and both the strategy behind it and how well they're doing at that?
Well, I think you're right. I think the strategy is much what you see in a criminal case where if the facts don't reflect well on the defendant tries to put the government on trial. So here the Republicans are less interested in what did Russia do and how did they do it and how do we protect ourselves, but rather let's shift the focus onto any kind of government misbehavior. And maybe if we can suggest that the whole investigation goes back to this dossier and this dossier was opposition research, maybe we can discredit the whole investigation and maybe we can get the country to ignore what Russia in fact did. You know, the plain fact is sometimes what is uncovered in opposition research turns out to be true. And here, if what Christopher Steele found, whether it was working for a Republican candidate and a Democratic candidate later, proved to be true, proved to be of concern to the FBI and to the country, then we need to know it, and we can't ignore it merely because it came to the surface during a political campaign. So the most important thing is it true? How much of it is true? And how much outside of the dossier have we learned about the Russian involvement? And indeed, we keep on learning more and more. So, you know, I view this as much like what happened, frankly, during our interviews today when the Republican chairman of our committee announced 2 new investigations of Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration as really more of the same to deflect attention from the Russia investigation, much as the White House has been urging them to do.